how can people not think that the pilot's amazing? The like whole intro sequence is just masterfully directed. And then this, like Susan, like, you know, the teachers like leave Susan alone and she does an ink blot Rorschach thing and draws this out, and it's you don't get this in the like the one that's broadcast, but it basically feels like Susan is doing witchy shit to tell the future, and she sees all that will become, like all that will happen in the coming season up to her departure. You know, she sees it all, kind of. And she's just kind of like, oh shit. Like, you just don't get that in the one that was done in... Like, look at that. She's just like, oh, shit. Just that look of just... She's seen what will be. It's intense, and it's amazing, and it's so evocative. The way that you watch the first story of Doctor Who is... You get it on DVD, you press play all, and it plays you the pilot to begin with. You think it's the first episode, but it's the pilot, and then you get the actual first episode, and it's just not as good. Like, it's just had its edges just taken away and shorn away. What it feels like, you know, when the Doctor in Trial of the Time Lord is like, look, something seems wrong here, shit seems to have been altered, I think, I don't know. That's basically, I think that's what's going on here. I think that the episode that got broadcast is something to do with something very similar to what's going on in the Trial of the Time Lord. That's basically how I see it, you know. The episode we get is just a sanitized version of the true events, which we do actually have access to seeing. And just for, like, giving us this precious first episode as the pilot and not the one that was released, I really think this theory, for me, is a 10 out of 10 in terms of just how it affects my relationship with Doctor Who. Now I just get to enjoy the pilot and like watch it as if I'm like uncovering some sort of sinister truth that's being like hidden from me because of the one that was actually published, you know. Like, it feels like I'm in Trial of the Time Lord. It's not just watching the Doctor go through it. We are going through it now. Oh, it's good. Okay, so Susan says she's born in the 49th century or whatever. Like, the way I've always interpreted that, because I do believe to my core that the pilot is the true events, that makes me believe that Gallifrey's history, like, what does it mean if Gallifrey's history, like, where the Doctor comes from or whatever, you know? What if it is the 49th century, but from a place the other side of the universe, you know? Like, the fact that our timelines collide, just, I love it as world building. It's like, sure, you're a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. Well, what if it's a long time in the future in a galaxy far, far away, you know? Like, the fact that they nail down the numbers mean nothing because they're talking about Gallifrey. Like, you can't just be like, oh yeah, I was born in the 49th century and be like, oh yeah, so she's from Earth. It's like, nah. Gallifrey's history happened before Earth's modern day history. I mean, it happened after. That's so cool and timey-wimey, you know? Okay, look, the fact that they cover up the fact that they say the 49th century, you know, that's part of it. That's part of the mystery of the first story, you know? like, 49th century is what was stated in the true events, but the knowledge of Gallifrey must be protected, perhaps? Like, this really 100% feels like I'm the Doctor in Trial of the Time Lord, being like, events have been changed and I don't know why, but I think it's the Time Lords doing shifty shit. Like, there's a lot of evidence that Doctor Who is a show watched by the Time Lords. So why would we want it occluded from the fact... Like, why would it be occluded from... taken out from the Time Lords' understanding of what happens at the start of Doctor Who? Like, why would it be taken out that, like, early-ish Gallifrey is, like, in the 49th century? And then you realise that would mean that they'd realise that Earth is actually, like, the origin of the Time Lords. Like, the Earth is their origin story, Like, that's why this can't be known, because Time Lords could trace... Like, it would be too obvious if they're, like, watching a thing about Earth, and then 49th century, like, that's enough time. Like, I don't know how Earth, and modern day Earth, is so connected with Gallifrey, but you just know that it is. And you know that it would be too obvious to Time Lords watching, They'd just be like, wait a minute. Earth is our origins? Is like, secrets kept from Gallifreyans about Gallifrey, and all Gallifreyans aren't born in looms, they are taken from Earth. Gallifrey is a sterile planet. The only true Gallifreyans are humans, corrupted by the time vortex. I'm telling you, this is some Trial of a Time Lord level shit. Like that witchy shit that Susan did at the start of, like, in the pilot. Why is that not here? It's because the information in her reading, in her witchy reading of the events to come. Time Lords could read that, and they'd realise information. I don't know what information, but they would realise stuff, potentially, that could compromise Gallifreyan security or something. Who knows? But, like, there is a clear, like, reason. Like, it gives too much information away, and they just take it away in the actual televised version because they don't want you to know. But if you're a Time Lord watching this, go back and watch the pilot to find out the truth. Alright, so, most people seem to think that, the caveman story is just the Earth's history. I've never subscribed to that. I've always thought it's an alien planet or something. And maybe I'm just doing too much problem solving because of this Trial of a Time Lord level shit, but, like, I think that the place they go is the origins of Gallifrey. When Gallifreyans were just cavemen. Probably just blundered into the time vortex and got spat out on Earth or something, and ended up coming back the long way round in the 49th century, Who knows? There is a mystery to explain here. I love it. Alright, once you see it, you can't unsee it. I mean, like, in place of the witchy scene where she basically foresees the future of Doctor Who, potentially even the future of Gallifrey herself, who knows what she discovered. And they replace it with this absolute propagandist bullshit. Like, she picks up a book about a historical period and goes, "Ha, I am a Time Lord. I think this is ridiculous because I know better than all of you." This is just propaganda. You know, they don't want you to know the truth. They want you to stop questioning. The published episodes with the Doctor just being a nicer guy, you know? Come on. This is propaganda and you know it. Like, watching this feels like what watching the Trial of the Time Lord should feel like, you know? Like, there's meat, there's plot going on, there's something subversive all being done to everything we're seeing, and it all is done for a reason. And it doesn't come together in the Trial of a Time Lord. But this sitting at the heart of coincidence. At the very beginning of Doctor Who, we have the ultimate Trial of a Time Lord, one that will give us answers if we care to look. This is what Trial of a Time Lord wanted to be. Like, I always get the feeling that the first episode that got aired, it always feels like it's just gaslighting me as to the true events. That's how it's always felt, you know? Everything's just softened down, everything's just sped up a bit too much. Nothing quite feels natural, everything's a bit too shiny and polished. Yeah, like, literally, the first episode did its job, didn't it? You know? It made you look down on these Earthlings and make you feel proud to be a Gallifreyan, didn't it? You don't dare for a moment. You don't dare to think that your civilization started with these fucking cave people who are so pathetic as they try and work out how fire came out of the sticks. The propaganda has done its work. You know, whereas before my theories on my channels were just the silliest shit ever, now I'm just doing the ones that enrich the watching experience. The ones that make it better. The ones that are actually of value and meat and substance and are worthy of remembrance and aren't just me being silly or hopeful or anything like that. These things enhance this show. You can't look at my theories that I did before and compare it to what I'm doing now. I mean, some of them, yeah. But nah, this is a new era of this channel. It wouldn't surprise me if Doctor Who, the show, was somehow some sort of weapon in the Time War, you know? But I think what must be the case is that classic Doctor Who was available to Time Lords before the moment was used, and then, you know, the revival was accessible to the Time Lords after the Time War. Alright, so I suggested that the caveman story is this beginning of Gallifrey, but I think if all Gallifreyans come from Earth, then it means that it's the beginning of Earth, which is ultimately the beginning of Gallifreyan society, and they don't want you to know that they were so pathetic, that they were just holding things that could technically make fire or did make fire in the past in the hopes that fire would come again, and going, to try and make the fire come out. Like, that's so fucking pathetic. And if, like, the Time Lord upper people are wanting to be patriotic and not make you think about how pathetic Time Lords were, because ultimately Time Lords are the best, and you know, anything that contradicts that must be, like, purged from our history. Also, like, if this is propaganda, then that means that the whole of Doctor Who as a show, which is a show created for Gallifreyans, that's also propaganda, and it's had the bits edited out that, like, you know, yeah, I think there's going to be so much stuff edited and changed to be propaganda. You know, what were the real events under every Doctor Who story? You know, how much is it just aggrandizing Time Lords? You know, I bet the Time Lords weren't even part of, like, the Doctor wasn't really a big part of saving stuff, and they just amalgamate all the, like, greats of, like, the actual events, and they're just like, nah, the Doctor did all of those, you know? Doctor's just stealing their stories and pretending that they're his. Like, the Doctor is Gilderoy Lockhart. You know, he's just taking credit for people and events that happened that he just turned up in. You know? Maybe he probably wasn't even there half the time. I think the Doctor as a character is... I mean, the show's called Doctor Who, and from, like, a heavily propagandizing people like the Time Lords, they probably want to just insert themselves into so many things and be like, yeah, we did this, we did that, and they're just lying about history. The Doctor never the Doctor is a phantom, a propaganda thing.